the heart of the city is shrouded in darkness,
Who is he? I'm scared.
and life will never be the same again.
Why won't they catch him?
Who will be next?
Friends, this is the story of England's most dangerous serial killer, Jack the Ripper, who was also known as the Whitechapel murderer and leather apron. Jack's specialty was that after committing a murder, he would remove his internal organs such as teeth, lungs and kidneys from his victim's body. Before this, such a dangerous and ferocious murderer had not been seen in the world. Despite being ferocious, he was so cunning that after committing the murder, he was never caught. Friends, due to not being caught, he became the most mysterious serial killer in history. Now the question arises that when and why did Jack commit these murders? And what was the reason that the police could not catch him? To know the answers to these questions, please watch this video till the end. So let's start this interesting story of Jack the Ripper. Friends, this story is from around 1880, when Eastern London used to be a place full of filth. The reason for this filth was that at that time there was a state of unemployment in the whole world. People all over the world were shifting to London in search of work. At that time, the unemployed people were eager to go to London for work. London was completely full because of these people coming from outside. Although these people shifted to London in search of employment, but due to the large number of people, the conditions in London also deteriorated, due to which people stopped getting work, and because people could not get any work to survive, so they started committing crimes such as theft, robbery, murder and rape. Friends, at that time the streets of London were full of drunkards and thieves. At the same time, women also had no work. Therefore, prostitution also increased a lot, because of which there was filth on every street and corner. The local people of England began to hold these people responsible for this growing crime and deteriorating situation in London, because of which racism began to increase and the number of rapes and murders on the streets began to increase even more rapidly. People began to take to the streets against each other, and despite trying their best, the situation was not coming under control. At that time, the situation was such that a big riot could break out at any time in London. But then something happened that not only took the sleep of the police, but also attracted the attention of the world. Friends, in 1988, the police there got information that a serial killer was in London. This serial killer was so dangerous that after knowing about it, the whole police department was shocked, because they had never seen such a cunning and ferocious killer before. Along with the police, there was also a fear among the people of London, and everyone was talking about this killer. Initially, the police thought that this killer had committed 11 murders, but when the investigation was carried out later, it was found that he had actually committed only 5 murders, because these 5 murders were done in exactly the same way in a special pattern. Friends, before moving forward with this story, let's know a little about Jack the Ripper. Now people would like to know when and where Jack was born and who he really was. So friends, let us tell you that no person has ever been able to find the answers to these questions. At that time, big famous detectives were looking for Jack, but they couldn't even find his real name. This is the reason why he is considered the most mysterious and cunning killer in history. Jack brutally murdered 5 women living in London. And since he had committed most of the murders in the Whitechapel district of Eastern London, so people had named him the Whitechapel murderer, whereas the names such as Leather Apron and Jack the Ripper were found in the letters written by the police. So friends, let's go back to our story. And as we told you, the murder of those 5 women was done in a special pattern. That special pattern was that all these women were prostitutes, and all of them were killed with the help of a sharp knife. In short, Jack was an expert in using a knife and stabbing people, because not only did he slit their throats to kill all these women, but he also slit their bodies like a doctor and removed their internal organs. In this horrible surgery performed by Jack, the kidneys, uterus, eyes, lungs, and all the organs in the stomach were all removed from the bodies of these women. In addition to this, he used to attack these women's private parts several times with the help of a knife and destroy them completely. The police found the dead body in such a state that they began to vomit upon seeing it. Friends, he also destroyed the faces of the women completely, so that when the police found the dead body, no one could recognize it. Now, since Eastern London was a den of crimes in those days, the police had a lot of trouble in finding out which murder was committed by Jack and which was not. Because in those days, a lot of murders were being committed in London by other murderers apart from Jack. And as soon as the matter of Jack began to spread in London, other criminals also started murdering in his style. This increased the problem of the police even more. In fact, Jack had become so famous at that time that his news was published on the front page of every newspaper. This whole incident had become a horror story for people. On one hand, people were enjoying the story, while on the other hand, the police were working day and night to catch him. This investigation of the police continued for a long time, in which they interviewed thousands of people, and then 80 of those people met whom they had complete suspicion. In addition, if the police gave any information about Jack, there was also a big reward for the people. Therefore, not only the police were looking for Jack, but also the common people were doing in the greed of that reward. In those days, in Eastern London, the police were busy looking for Jack the Ripper with 24-hour dogs. And since it was not possible for an ordinary person to cut out the human body from a knife, so the first target of the police was on people like butcher, surgeon, doctor, and physician, who know the job of cutting the human body very well. Now, if we talk about the letters written to the police by Jack, then on the day the police came, they kept getting letters in the name of Jack. But the most famous letter in all those letters was from hell. This letter was posted on October 15, 1888. Friends, in this letter, Jack wrote that Mr. Lusk, I am sending you a part of that woman's kidney, while I have fried and eaten the other part of it myself, and it was very tasty. Friends, a lot of grammar mistakes were made in writing this letter, which gave the police the impression that Jack was not very educated. But all these assumptions of the police have always remained assumptions, because despite trying a lot, the police could never catch Jack the Ripper, and the police could not even find out his real identity. As time passed, many such people also emerged who were considered Jack the Ripper. There were some people among them who the police suspected, while there were some people who claimed to be Jack the Ripper themselves. Such people were thoroughly investigated by the police, but none of them turned out to be Jack the Ripper. Many criminals started calling themselves Jack the Ripper just to be famous. Although there were many suspects at that time who were suspected of being Jack the Ripper, but among all those suspects, the most suspicious of the people was Prince and Queen Victoria's granddaughter, Albert Victor, because syphilis had completely destroyed Prince's brain. Because of this, after spending a few years in the mental asylum, he died in 1892. People believed that Prince used to go out to hunt from his palace at night and used to hunt only women to get rid of his addiction. However, all these things were considered rumors because no one had any evidence against Prince. After searching for many years, the police did not find any clue about Jack the Ripper, and this serial killer remained a mystery forever. That's all for today.